Hello everyone. This is Preetham Abhishek from the Electronics Club. I'm thoroughly pleased to witness you all here in this workshop. It's my privilege to address you all on behalf of the Electronics Club. I welcome all the participants in the workshop. We are truly delighted with your presence. As we all have gathered here today to attend this workshop, know your laptop, right? Before doing so, let us ask some questions ourselves. Like most of us have been using our laptop for work, study, and play for years and years. But have you actually explored every utility and feature that would make your life easier? Like, did you ever wonder how does a RAM work? How does a processor work? And which processor brand is the best for you, AMD or Intel? And do you know that i3 processor can be better than i5? And some of our daily routines can actually damage the laptop battery health. With all that, we all know what things can be done with a laptop, but have you ever thought what things not to do with it? If not, the Electronics Club brings you Know Your Laptop workshop from the Electriq series of workshop to explore all these and get valuable insights of your best friend, your laptop, and more importantly, your helping hand in most projects and assignments, especially in online semester. But before starting with the presentation, let us watch a short promo of the workshop. Let me share my screen.
So, Dhruv, can you share your screen and explain the Verilog code that we've been working on?
Yeah, let me share my screen. Is it visible?
Yeah, it is visible.
Yeah, so we know that there is a problem in testnet.sv, but I found that.
Wait. 1 second, Dhruv. I see that you are charging your laptop even though it is at 100%. Then why are you still charging it?
Chill, bro. I'll do it later. I usually use it like that only.
No, bro, you should not be doing this. Whatever you're doing is bad for your laptop's battery health. It'll damage your laptop in the long run and you will get low battery life, especially if you're using an old laptop.
Is it so? I too realize that I'm getting very low battery life these days, and this might be the reason behind it. So I must stop doing it then. Thanks for pointing it out, bro. How do you know about all these, Akshay?
Well, I learned this from Know About It series by the Electronics Club. Actually, they're conducting a workshop related to this, and I'm going to attend it. You should attend it too. You will learn many new things.
Oh, thanks, bro. Can you tell me more about the details of this workshop?
So with this, I hand it over to Sumit to start with the presentation. Over to you, Sumit.
Yes. Let me share my screen. Okay, so welcome everyone to the first section, that is processors. We all know that the main component in our laptop is the processor. Even we have the highest specifications of everything else, but if you do not have the right processor, your expectations are going in drain. So let's begin with processors. Before beginning, let me tell that we should not be confusing the processor and the SoC. What is SoC? SoC stands for system on chip. When we are using our smartphones, it has processor, but actually it is not a processor, it is system on chip. It is very degraded version of the processor. Hence the mobile actually does not contain processor. We find SoC in the in the tablets and in the mobile phones. Even in the laptops, we have different processors for the PC and laptop. Actually, the processor which we use in the laptop are known as mobile processors. It is designed for the laptops only. The advertisements we see in the TV or in the YouTube, those are not the mobile processors. Those are the PC processors. So let's begin. So first, clear some myths. Okay, whenever our laptop is slow and we have a advising friend, then he will advise that, oh, what's the RAM, bro? Please increase your RAM, please upgrade your RAM. But let me say that RAM has nothing to do with performance. It just increase the speed. It just handles the task. I mean, if you're adding 1,000 numbers 1,000 times, then it can take 1,000 inputs at a time and it can show. But the calculation, the speed of the calculation is offered by the processor. So whenever if somebody says that to increase performance, increase RAM, just tell him this. Okay, now let's go deep into the processor. Okay. 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 Sorry. Okay. So now let's begin with cores. We hear, especially in smartphones, we hear octa-core processor, hexa-core processor. Recently, deca-core processor also came. So what are these cores? Actually, these cores are the processing units. Means in processor, these cores will be the actual performing. Uh, these cores are independent to each other. They does not interact with each other. They has its own memory, and they has its own cache. We will talk about cache later. So in quad core processor and in octa core processor, what we see that not all especially in smartphones, not all cores of same power. Like in smartphones, when we see that, oh, it is octa core processor in smartphones, it is not all of same capability. Yes, that's true. Like in smartphones, the four of the octa-core processor are low powered version and the four are the high power version. So whenever we do simple tasks like browsing internet or chatting, or even if you are watching YouTube with 480 pixels, it is still considered as low power operation. And till then, out of the 8 cores, only 4 cores will be working. So it's the thing. And uh, you might see some extra drain, like if you are having an octa-core processor in your device, even though you are using not that much, still the drain will be more. As we all know that obviously if we increase cores, the power will consumption will increase. But the reason behind is that we are working on the processors, we are working on the memory, we are upgrading our RAM, we are upgrading our processor, but we are not upgrading our battery. It is still the lithium ion battery only. So this the major drawback of the battery, is that it is still the old technology. Okay, when coming to smartphones, when it is a dual core in Android, it's too weak. When it comes to Apple, even the dual core processors will outperform the quad core processor in the Android. What the reason is the app optimization. The thing is, if the app is optimized, it doesn't depend on the numbers. Like if app optimization plays a major role, then numbers. So all these are about the course. Now let's get into the actual processors. Majorly, nowadays there are two different processors with AMD and Intel. So actually, Intel is not a name. Intel is the short form of the actual name, that is Integrated Electronics. Intel provides a lot of variety of processors nowadays. It starts with the laptop processor, that is a mobile processor, then PC processors, then server processors also it is providing. So what we can see, the most common is core i3, i5. Those are Intel core, but there are also Intel Pentium and Intel Celeron. I want to say that do not underestimate the Intel Pentium, as it has some advantages in some sectors. Okay, coming to Intel Core, when we see the name of the processor, it is like this: Intel Core i7, some numbers. Oh, what these numbers are? We don't bother much. We only see, oh, what the company is and what the i3, i5, and what the generation is. We don't bother what is we neglect it. But these numbers play a major role than the beginning. Even sometimes they change the performance totally. So these are some basic stuff about the processor. The first thing is Intel Core. It is a brand. It can be AMD also. You will in the previous slide that we saw four numbers 1065. The first two numbers denotes the generation of that processor. That is whether it is 11th generation. Nowadays 12th, now 12th generation has come. So whether it is 10th generation or 11th generation, whereas the last two numbers is also known, technically it is known as SKU. The SKU stands for the stock keeping unit. So SKU denotes the performance. The higher the SKU number is, the higher it will offer the performance. And there are some letters at the last. Even every processor, whether it be AMD, Intel, there are some letters. So the entire mystery of the processor lies in these letters. So let's reveal this mystery. But wait, if I give you a laptop with i3 11th generation, you will be shocked, saying what a dumb laptop it is. But if you understand the mystery of these end numbers, actually you will be very happy. Even I have i5 11th generation, but I can't compete with these i3 processor because of the magic of these end numbers and letters. Similarly, the front name may look fancy like Intel i9 12th generation. It is the latest generation now. But if we do not meet the requirements, I mean, if you buy something else like G7 processor, we cannot fulfill our requirement easily. So we should be very careful while seeing the name of the processors and choosing it. Okay, so here comes the unboxing of the mystery. This is the entire detail of the processors. You will find everything in this table, but we'll not go to detail in everything. Majorly in our laptops, there are four types of the letters: H, HK, and sometimes U, sometimes Y. G7 is nowadays mostly popular. G1, G2, G3 are not popular that much. What does G7 and G6 denotes? Actually, our processor comes with the integrated GPU. The level of the GPU is denoted by G. If it is G1, it is somewhat lower standard. G6 has some higher standards. G7 is even more higher standard. And what does H means? High performance optimized for mobile. Remember that the laptops we have mobile processors. Those are not the actual powerful processors. The actual powerful processors are something like X, XC, and special edition, that is S. So even we have HQ and HK. Q means quad core, and HK. What does this K denotes? K denotes overclocking, that we can safely overclock the processor. What is overclocking? Like when we buy a laptop, there we can see that it has a i3 11 i5 11 generation at 3.1 gigahertz. That is the frequency of the processor. But with the help of overclocking, we can cross that barrier of the manufacturer. We can run at 5 gigahertz also. And if it is K in the name of the processor, then it is safe to overclock. If we can overclock every processor, it doesn't matter. But what happens is that if we overclock a normal processor which is not designed for overclocking, it may burn entirely. It may not handle that much pressure. So do not play with the processors like overclocking. Okay, you might feel boring now, so let's have some refreshment by solving a simple question. Like you might you all know about the letters and these numbers. Why can't we solve a simple question like, I have four processors and let's arrange it in the descending order of the performance, keeping the highest performing at the top. To make your task easy, I am providing answer. You might think that this answer is good, na? Like we have a i7 at the first, then i7, then i5, then i5, and if we compare the performance index 65, 60, 35, 30, how many of you feel that this answer is perfect? Please let me know in the chat. uh, the table, okay, not perfect, good. Yeah, it is. The letters are same for the Intel and AMD. There's not much difference. Okay, so I guess 3 laptop build is needed. Cooling, and we'll talk about the cooling later. Okay, perfect. So everyone feels that it is perfect. Oh wow, nah? But actually you are wrong. Comparable, I think. Okay, I will talk. I will speak about this. So actually, it is wrong. See, what happening is Intel is changing its naming convention almost for every generation. Until the ninth generation, it was something very easy. We don't even need this much. But from 10th generation, it was some complex. And for after even after 10th generation, it was like uh, it was still complex. So this is only for 10th generation processors, that the first number, that after the generation 2 numbers, the performance index is further divided. The first number only denotes the performance, whereas the second number denotes the series, whether it is U series and Y series. If you remember, the U series denotes the battery efficient performance, means it will work very lazily, it will do just small works, and if it gets some heavy task, it will take some time to process it. And the 0 denotes the Y series, it is even more lazier than U series, and the last two letters denotes the type of processor it is. So what we do is that the first two letters are phi, means it is U series, and the performance index is greater, means in the first we will see it is U series, it is Y series. Y series, even though it is i7, but it is Y series processor, it is no use of us. Instead of this, we will buy a i5 processor with a U series instead of Y series. So according to the performance index, the 10 all are 10th generation, 6 performance index is better than 3 performance index. Then comes to the Y series. So this is the right answer. I'm telling this is not valid for the 11th generation. Okay, now let's move to the threads. SKU. Actually, yeah, that is SKU. But it has some slightly change in the 11th generation, that in the 11th generation there were 4 numbers. In the 10th generation they divided further. Laser pointers. Huh? Okay, what these threads are in a processor? Am I talking about these threads, these woolen threads? Obviously not. I'm not talking about these woolen threads. So what threads do mean actually? What they do? Threads are something like the further division of the cores. Even the cores do not handle itself. Uh, what happens is that these are the virtual components, like it divides the physical hardware virtually. It does not break the circuit. Those are not different circuits. Thread is something like it can handle one operation per time. A physical CPU can have 2 threads per core. If we have a dual core processor, it can have 4 threads. If it is octal core, we can have 16 threads and vice versa. Thread is created by a process. Now, what is a process? We will discuss. The thing is, the number of threads we can create. The software can create a infinite number of threads, but the hardware cannot handle infinite number of threads. It varies from CPU to CPU. Okay, what is process? Process is as its name suggests, it's a process. Like when we open a WhatsApp, suppose when we are opening WhatsApp, then first we see the logo of the WhatsApp. It is one of the process. The chats is the another process. So how the app works is, first it will perform the first process, then second process. First it will display the logo, then it will come to the chat section. So these are some of the differences between process and threads. See, every processor has its own cache. The processor will work with its own cache, where a thread is under the process. So thread does not have its own memory. It has to work under the process, and it shares the memory of the process. So thread does not need to interact with the software. Whatever the software is, it just see what the process is telling. I will do the process. That is the work of the thread. So thread does not need to interact with OS. But in the case of process, it needs to interact with the OS. uh, Comparison will be later. First, let us see the details properly. Okay, what is the handle? Actually, these are very important terms which we will neglect. So handle is just like the reference. Like when we are doing assignments, we need some pen, we need some pencil, papers. We should know the location of them so that we can get them fast. So handle is same. The processor will link a reference to the required data file. So whenever it needs, it quickly copies the file into the cache or the RAM, and it will do the further process. So it's just to link the environmental resources to the process memory structure. Okay, now let's come to the AMD. It is very fantasizing nowadays, na? Everyone is having AMD processor. The thing is, AMD in 1990 was nothing as compared to now. Actually, AMD is a shortcut of the actual name, that is advanced micro devices. It has similar specifications to the Intel. Instead of 11th generation, it will keep, instead of i9, it will keep 9000 series, that like. But like in comparison, if you compare in terms of integrated GPU, power management, and cost, AMD is far better than Intel. But in terms of the processing power, like if you go for the overclocking, if you do overclocking, or if you go for the high end laptops, the AMD fails there. The Intel performance outbeats the AMD. So if you are a gamer and or content creator, you go with AMD. I would not suggest to go with Intel. But if you are not a gamer, like in college we play games, we play Valorant whole night, but somebody will not be interested in playing. They will, those are some nerds who keep studying and coding and everything else. I won't suggest them to invest in AMD, as the Intel CPU is far better than the AMD CPU if you are not really interested in games or the content creation. So Intel video card is not that much recommended. uh, Okay, now let's talk about some miscellaneous in the taskbar. These are some small specifications of the CPU, like uptime. We can see this in the taskbar. What this uptime? Okay, we'll talk about Mac. Okay, so what is uptime? It is the time from which my laptop is working. Clearly, you can see that my uptime is 13 days. Does it mean that I does not shut down my laptop from 13 days? Actually not. I shut down my laptop daily, but what happens is that when you shut down your laptop, it does not shut down completely. It stores some small, very small amount of data in the memory so that it can boot up fast. It does not delete everything in the RAM. So to clear this, I mean, it is a good practice to clear once 15 days. So to clear this, just go to the control panel and turn off the boost startup option. Then it will clear. Now these are the some minor details like L1 cache, L2 cache, L3 cache. I have told you that the each core has its own cache, but L3 cache is not for each core. It is for every core. Means it is common. The thing is, the L3 core is common for everyone. It is shared by everyone, but the L1, L2 are separate. The first core has L1, L2. The second core has L1, L2, remaining, etc. See, the virtualization is on. Virtualization is another big task. Uh, we'll not go into detail much. Okay, so I guess we have thought much about the processor. Let's come to the conclusion. Uh, if you have already bought a laptop, we can't do anything. But if we go between AMD and Intel, like first check out your requirements. Are you a gamer? Do you want to create a YouTube channel in future? Okay, do you want to go in the content creation sector? Right. So the thing is, if you are such people, then go with AMD. If you are not, then do not go with AMD. If you want only the performance, right? If you don't want games, if you don't want anything, just you want that multitasking should be enough. The computer should not be hang on the official works, like you open the Teams, you open the PowerPoint, you open the Adobe, everything should work fine, then go with the Intel. So different people need different processors. uh, so yeah, the while choosing laptop, we should be very careful. The battle will almost run that people saying Intel is better, somebody will say AMD is better, and but according to my decision, both are good. The thing is, first check out your requirements and be careful while choosing laptop, because what happens is, if we are not satisfied with the RAM, we can upgrade it. If we are not satisfied with the memory, we can change it. But if you're not satisfied with the processor, you should buy a new laptop. So be wise while choosing a processor. Thanks. This is my end of the conclusion. Uh, let's go to the next section.
So since you know about processors now, let's move to storage part of the laptops, and I will start it with RAM. First, I will tell you that there are two types of data, that is temporary and permanent. RAM access memory or RAM is a way for your computer to store temporary data rather than in cache or permanent storage. Storage, which is often wrongly referred to as memory, is permanent data stored on a hard disk drive or solid state drive, that means HDD or SSD. Both the RAM and CPU cache are temporary data stores that are cleared your computer is turned when that gets cleared when your computer is turned off. So keep this in mind that RAM stores data temporarily. So here there are some different types of RAMs along with their bandwidths and how much voltage they use. So the amount you can clearly observe higher the number, the better the speed, and unfortunately higher the price you have to give to the new models. So with all that said, the faster the data, the faster the RAM. But the amount of memory you need depends on your tasks and demands. So these days, 8 GB is minimum, which should see most people through daily computing needs when casual gaming, graphics and design and even photo and video editing. But if you want to play the biggest titles in higher resolution or do intensive creative work, a high graphics game or very high intensive work in terms of graphics, then a minimum of 16 GB is necessary. So now I will tell you about few symptoms about your system may have if you have a RAM problem. So how to know that there is a problem in your RAM is found when you get these types of symptoms. So first is very relatable. So when you first turn on your computer, it runs fine. But as you go about your business, you notice that its performance diminishes. Now as time passes, websites take minutes to load and local program runs at a snail's pace, right? So your computer gets slow basically. So this type of gradual deterioration of PC performance, especially with memory intensive programs, may be caused by a RAM problem. So get aware that there is some problem in your RAM. So the next symptom is your computer randomly restarts while you are in middle of something or freeze sporadically. It may also reboot almost immediately upon opening the desktop. This could also be the sign of faulty RAM. Third one, will tell you the third one or two. Sorry, files, particularly ones you frequently accessed and saved, seems to be inexplicably corrupted. RAM issues can lead to this problem, which can worsen over time. The file structure of your hard drive may slowly degenerate and you will no longer be able to boot your machine. The next symptom is that sometimes a blue screen with white shitty text font flashes before restarting. Bad RAM is one thing that causes them. So I think the blue screen might have happened to many of you, and that is very annoying. The last symptom is frequent crashes. So if your computer is crashing on opening heavy apps, for example, design apps or video editing related, then your RAM is confirmed there is some problem in your RAM and is not working properly. So first, what causes these memory damages? There are three main causes. I will tell you one by one. So the first one is biggest problem in India, that is power surges. Power surges can damage most computer components, including RAM. So if there is any other component, that could also get damaged by power surges and RAM too. The next is excessive heat. So excessive heat can produce during charging your laptop, or if you keep your laptop where there is no space for air to pass, for example, on bed. This can cause RAM and other parts to wear out over time. Individual components can overheat, or heat from one component can cause damage to adjacent parts too. So I'll recommend you to use a flat base for your laptop so that the air vents present in your laptops don't get seized and there is a continuous heat flow. Or you can also use the cooling boards that come on the market. So the next is electric discharge. You might have not heard about it most often. So before you handle any part in your computer, make sure you ground yourself by touching a piece of grounded metal to discharge static electricity. Electrostatic discharge can damage your computer. So you might not have heard about it, but before handling any computer device, just keep this in mind. Computer component, that keep this in mind. So before going the tracking memory and cleanup processes, first I want to tell you that there is a way to check whether there is a bad RAM present in your Windows or Mac OS or not. So go to the chat box and find the links where the detailed steps of checking it is given. So I think someone might from our team have sent you the link. Go through it. There are detailed steps on how to check that there any RAM problem or not in your Windows operating system or Mac OS. Links for both of them are given. So let's move on to the way to know that the way of free up to how to free up RAM and track memory and clean up processes. So the shortcut that is used is Control plus Alt plus Delete. This is the one of the most famous shortcuts in the computer history after Control C, Control V that you most often use in your assignments and all. I should not say that, but so you use Control plus Alt plus Delete to go to the task manager. There, select the processes tabs and go to the memory column where you use you can see that how much space each task is taking. So if is there any task that is taking a lot of memory, then and you think that it is not required, then only you can end the task then and there. But ending the task before, check that is that task is unnecessary or not. If it is, then end that task then and there. So this is the end of the RAM segment of our workshop. I will hand it over to my friend who will tell you about the power management. Memory.
Okay, so I hope my screen is visible. Let's get into the memory section of your laptop. So ideally, a laptop memory will be instantaneously accessible. It will be cost efficient. It should be cheap and compact, and also it should allow permanent storage. But such a case cannot happen in real life. So how do we tackle this issue? We use some technology known as memory hierarchy. So basically, we divide the memory into different levels, and each level has its own features. Like the memory which is on the top levels will be easily accessible, and immediately data can transfer into your processor. And the levels which are in the lower portion, they will be used for permanent storage and will be much slower than the levels on top. So let's get into the different levels which are present in your memory hierarchy. So the very first level is the registers. Registers are small memory locations which are present inside the CPU itself. So this small amount of memory is used by the processor for storing important instructions. For example, any memory locations which you have to access or any processes, programs which you need to access, their locations can be stored in their registers, or any kind of program request that you need, file request, you can store them in your registers. So this will allow instant access to the CPU because it is much closer to it. So the next level is cache. So you have already heard about what is cache and the different levels of cache, different types of cache. So basically it is it's a special memory which is present closer to CPU, and it is much faster than the main memory. So the cache essentially contains a copy of the main memory, the copy of all the programs which are supposed to be executed. So after cache comes the RAM. You have already learned just now about what the RAM is. RAM is also known as the main memory or the primary memory. One second. Okay, so RAM is also known as the primary memory, and it will store all the programs and data which is supposed to be processed. One issue we have seen is that it requires power for maintaining its state. So after RAM comes the secondary memory. So as we have seen that we need power for RAM to maintain to store some data. So how do we tackle this issue? We use secondary memory. Secondary memory is basically the SSD or HDD drives which you have seen, or your CD drives or your flash drives. So these memory storages will allow permanent storage of data. So they do not require any power to store this information. And another benefit of secondary memory is that they provide better memory density. So for the same volume, they will store much more amount of data. As you have seen that your secondary memory will be maybe 512 GB or 1 TB, whereas your RAM will be only at max 16 GB. The secondary memory will be definitely much slower than your main memory or your RAM, and uh, the secondary memory for whatever processes and data which are to be executed from the secondary memory, they have to be brought onto the main memory for their execution. So now we have seen what are the different hardware levels of memory. Now you may be thinking, how is memory actually stored in these different levels, and on what basis is it stored, and how are they accessed? So memory allocation is a very deep, very long concept. We will not be delving too deep into it. I will only give you a bit taste of what is to come in memory allocation. Let's just discuss how data is transferred between RAM and secondary memory. So as I said that the programs which are present in your secondary memory, they need to be transferred onto the main memory or your RAM for them to be processed. Now, let's say your RAM is completely full and you need to transfer a few programs from your secondary memory onto your RAM for processing. How do you do this? There is a process known as swapping. So swapping is a method where any low priority programs which is present in your RAM will be swapped onto your secondary memory. So basically, let's say you have any programs which are waiting for input output buffers, or they are just in standby mode, they will be considered lesser priority than the programs which are requested to be processed right now. So those programs will be swapped onto the secondary memory from the main memory. This is done by the memory management unit. So after some time, again, this swapped programs will be brought back onto your main memory for processing. So this method allows many multiple processes to be run simultaneously in the same amount of RAM. So we have now seen how you can how these programs transfer between the secondary memory and the main memory. Let us see another management system, memory management system, which is used between the RAM and the secondary memory. So before I go into that, I want to explain to you how these programs are stored in your RAM. So programs are actually divided into fixed divisions, which are known as pages, and your RAM contains these fixed divisions known as frames. So each frame will contain one page of a program. So your total RAM will be essentially a table containing multiple pages of multiple programs. So how is this useful? Let's get into what is known as virtual memory. So virtual memory is just a storage scheme which will create an illusion of having a very big main memory. So sometimes you may see that your RAM is only 4 GB, but your virtual memory can increase your RAM up to, let's say, 8 GB or 16 GB or so. So how does this do this? Your virtual memory treats part of your secondary memory as the main memory. So whatever, let's say there are a few pages of the programs which are not currently being used on your main memory, they will be swapped onto the secondary memory. Now here only a part or a page of a program is swapped onto the secondary memory, and so the total program will be in two parts. Some of the pages will be in your RAM and some of the pages will be in your secondary memory. So the total program will be running even though some of it is present in your secondary memory. So I would like to ask you a question over here. What do you think is faster, uh, the virtual memory system or your main memory, means your RAM? Would you can answer your whatever you think in the chat box. Main memory, RAM. Yes, whoever is saying main memory or RAM, you are correct. So why is main memory more faster than virtual memory? Because Your virtual memory, it depends upon the swapping of programs between main memory and your RAM. So sorry, main memory and your secondary memory. So it will be essentially as fast as your secondary memory. So as I've said before, secondary memory is much lower than your RAM. Hence, virtual memory will be much slower. But a benefit of virtual memory is you can increase your total virtual memory to how much ever extent your secondary memory exists. So there is no logical limit to how much you can extend your virtual memory. So now we have seen about memory allocation. We have seen the hardware aspect of memories. Let us now see a few features which will be useful for you in your daily life. So what is partitioning? Disk partitioning is an important tool which is used to safeguard some important files or processes whenever there is a disk crash. So what partitioning does is, if you have a one disk or one drive, when you partition that drive, your laptop treats that particular drive as now two different systems. So now you can divide that one drive into two separate drives. So why is this useful? You can download multiple operating systems. So you must have seen many laptops containing Windows and Linux operating system on the same laptop. So this can be done using disk partitioning. Now, separating this can also be used in separating the memory for specific data types. So you can store like videos only in this particular drive, and you can store, let's say, pictures in this particular drive, even though the hardware is same. So another benefit of disk partitioning is, especially when you're using HDD drives, you must have seen HDD contains a rotating disk and a pointer which is used for collecting data from that disk. So since it is a rotating disk and there is a pointer from the circumference of the disk towards the center, now when the data which is present on the circumference of the disk will be easily accessed when they can be accessed much faster than the data which is present closer to the center of the disk. This is because of the relative motion between the disk and the pointer. Now, how can this be useful? Let's say you store your programs which you're daily using and frequently using. You can store them on a partition which is made on the circumference of the disk, and you can store the remaining programs which are less frequently used in the partition which is closer to the center. So this way it can increase your performance and efficiency. So this partitioning in Windows can be done in disk management, and in Mac OS you can do this in disk utility. Now let's get into disk fragmentation. Let's say you have a bunch of files which are stored in your secondary memory or your hard drives, and now you have after a lot of usage you have accessed those files, you have changed the size, you have modified it, you have shrunk it, or you have increased its size. Now by doing this, what happens? Whatever blocks of memory which was stored, which was allocated for that particular file, now no longer supports it. So there will be some blocks of memory which will be vacant. Basically, there will be gaps in between the memory, vacant gaps, and these gaps will not be in a contiguous order. As you can see in the first picture, the gaps are together, whereas in the second picture they are all scattered. So what happens? What is the effect of this? Whenever you have any new file that comes into your system, it cannot find a proper contiguous memory block for it to be stored. So it will undergo fragmentation. So when the file gets fragmented, it will be stored in all these small memory locations. So what is the disadvantage of this? It will it will reduce your performance in terms of accessing those files, because now they're scattered around in different memory locations. So how do you tackle this issue? Defragmentation is a process where your laptop basically brings all the files together into a contiguous memory block, and then all the vacant space will be brought into another contiguous memory block. So this way you can defragment your hard drive. It can be done in Windows using your defragmentation menu, optimize drives menu. You can choose your whichever drive you want to optimize, and you can optimize that drive. And you may be thinking, well, in Mac, what should we do for defragmentation? Well, let me just tell you, it is not required for Mac because the file system of Mac automatically defragments the files whenever it is necessary. So whenever the files entering your system are less than 20 MB, then your the file system of Mac will automatically defragment it. Next, one more important caution I would like to say: don't defragment your SSD drives. Defragmentation manually can be done by HDD drives for the HDD drives because firstly, there is no performance benefit for defragmenting your SSD drives. Second thing, due to the data amount of data transfer that is occurring in your SSD drive, it will deteriorate the performance of your SSD. So I would recommend not to defragment your SSD drive. Now I would like to ask you guys a question. What actually happens when you delete your data permanently from your system? You can answer in the chat box. What do you think will happen? Like, will you be able to access that information again, or is that information completely gone from your laptop now? What do you think happens? Those memory spaces are freed and data still remains. Data will be still. Yes, data is still in SD. All bits turn. All bits turn to 0. One person is saying using data recovery tools completely gone. So I can see some of you have a good idea about this, and some are yes, recycling bin. I'm saying permanently delete even from the recycling bin. Yeah, exactly. So some people have said that data is completely gone. That is not true. And some of you are answering correctly. Let me just explain what happens. When you permanently delete a file, what happens is that the file is not completely removed from your system. It still contains in your drive, but the locations are now considered as vacant positions for your laptop. So your laptop now thinks that those memory locations don't have anything in it. So it will think that it is vacant. How does it do this? It will delete the references to those locations. So all the pointers to the locations of this memory will be erased. So for your system, these locations are empty. Now, as many people said, that you can use a recovery software to recover these deleted files, but I would caution you to do this. I would caution you to do this quickly before any new files which are coming into your system will overwrite that previous data. So basically, since your laptop thinks that now in this location the file is no longer there, any new data will be it will allocate that new data in the previously stored file location. So this will overwrite that previous data. So I would suggest if you by mistake delete any files, you better use this recovery software quickly. So that concludes the memory section of my the workshop. Let's move on to the next.
So, as you have now learned about the processors and some about memory, I will now continue with the permanent data storage, unlike the temporary data storage that I just told you, that is RAM. So I saw that someone was asking for conclusion of SSD versus HDD. So exactly what you asked, we are here with. So I hope it will help you out. First, I'll give you a brief overview of what both of these things are. So first is HDD. So HDD, that is hard disk drive, is a data storage device that has spinning disk inside where data is stored magnetically. So the read and write operations are performed using heads, and these heads are actually transducers. Transducers are devices that convert energy from one form to another. You can sense that here magnetically is written, so magnetic energy plus electric energy obviously is present here. So there is some energy conversion going out. So I'm not going into details what actually happens. So you can Google it, and I'm assuring you that Googling it out and getting that info is really worth it. So go after the workshop, go and check it out. So moving on, In general, they are lower in costs and are practical for data that does not need to be accessed frequently, just as backups of photos, videos, or business files. So let's talk about SSDs now. That is solid state drives. SSD stores data in ICs. You might have heard about it. SSDs use flash memory, which is similar to your computer's RAM, but unlike RAM, in SSDs the data remains in unaltered in case of power disruption when your computer went off. Because this is obviously the definition of SSDs, it is a permanent data storage, so it should not get disrupted after power disruption. So they use moving on, they use semiconductor chips to send and receive data, which are divided into pages which stores data. I think someone has told you here about pages, so I think you might have heard it clearly. So first I would like to ask you guys what you guys think are the main differences between HDD and SSD. Type it in the chat box. I will give you a brief intro of it, but just type it. Speed and cost. Speed, yeah, fast, really fast. Speed is faster but more expensive, yes. So speed is the most common one. So yes, you guys are right, and the another is cost, yes. But I will tell you a few more points right now. So let's move ahead. Yeah, first is speed, obviously. So SSDs drastically reduce access time since users don't have to wait for platter rotation to start up across the Across the board, SSDs outpace HDDs because they use electrical circuitry and have no physical moving parts that are present in HDDs, that are rotating platters. This leads to shorter wait time when you are starting up and fewer delays when you open the apps or doing any heavy computing tasks. One thing is latency. It is clear that SSDs will have higher latency compared to HDDs. Now the another points are the HDDs has a lot of implications, especially in size and performance. Without the need of spinning disk, SSDs can reduce to the shape and size, and also weights of the HDDs increase because of moving parts, that is rotating platter again, unlike SSDs which are lighter in weight. So this weight and size is also important in the hardware, because as lower the weight of the hardware is, it is more efficient. Then the next point is SSDs commonly use less power and result in longer battery life because data access is much faster, and the device is idle more often because again it does not have rotating platters, so it device is idle more often. With their spinning disk, HDDs require more power when they start up than SSDs. Now the next is which one is more reliable. Again, reliability. First, what is reliability? Reliability is defined as whether the data is stored as intended in an uncorrupted state. The files not get corrupted more often. So in that case, the SSDs are general more reliable than HDDs, which again is a function of not having moving parts. So that's because without the movement, SSDs aren't affected by vibrations or related thermal issues. So you can clearly see that the just difference in the hardware, that is the moving parts of the HDDs, have a great tolerance performance. So clearly SSDs outperform in these subjects than HDDs. But SSDs, since SSDs has a fast speed feature, but an SSD with a large storage capacity is quite expensive than an HDD. You cannot buy an 1 TB SSD in the price as same as 1 TB HDD, right? So due to this reason, most of the users can only afford SSD with small storage. If the same is the case with you, you can choose to use SSDs and HDDs simultaneously on the same PC. So by using SSD and HDD together, you can simply take advantage of the lightning speed of this SSD, and on the other hand, you can be benefited from the large storage capacity of the HDD. These things are clear, but the few main 4 points you have to keep in mind before using the SSD and HDD together in your laptop or PC. So first is
use SSD as a boot drive only. Second, store personal data on HDD. Third, as recent just mentioned by my friend Akshay, that never defragment an SSD. I'm repeating again because it is important. Never defrag the SSD. And the last is migrate the OS and applications to the SSD. So keep that in mind, that use the SSD as boot drive. Put your personal info in HDD and OS and applications in SSD. And most importantly, never defrag the SSD. So these are the most important points for SSD and HDD. So there's an end for the segment of SSD and HDD. Thus, for you guys who wanted the conclusion of this, I think this might have helped you. Here is the so for this segment, here is the QR code that will redirect you to know about the series content, where this whole segment is explained beautifully in a nutshell. So I will stop this slide here for 1 minute. You can go and check this out. Till then, you can ask your question in the chat section. We are continuously answering your doubts. Yeah, power efficiency, yes, of course. So I think you might have scanned this code. Do like and follow our pages. So now moving on to our next topic, that is graphics.
Okay, so please confirm that my slides are visible and I'm audible.
Yes.
Okay, so we now talk about the graphics card. It's a very fascinating topic that we will talk very much about it. So let's get some detail about it. What is graphics card? Actually, graphics card is a hardware component. It is the component which gets the input and transforms into the high definition output. But the GPU is the actual thing, that is the graphics processing unit, similar to the CPU. It is GPU. It is the actual processing unit which does the work and do the computations for you. There are many GPU available in the market, such as NVIDIA. Majorly, that is NVIDIA and AMD. The rest are good, but these are the more good things. It has names such as NVIDIA GeForce RTX 3060 Ti and some specifications. Do you ever wonder what this name means? Is it just for showcase, or does it has an actual meaning? And what this processor do? So what these parameters do? So let's get some detail. The terminology starts, that is the memory size. As we have RAM for CPU, we have VRAM, that is video RAM or virtual RAM for the GPU. It do similar work but it is only dedicated to its GPU. It will not interfere with the CPU. And the next is the memory type. You have heard that the RAM comes now with the DDR4 memory type. The latest is DDR5, but in the GPU section, the latest is DDR6, and it may come beyond that. So its full form is graphics double data rate. It is essentially the type of VRAM. The next is the clock speed. The more the clock speed is, the more faster the GPU can process. Now the stream processors or the CUDA cores. Stream processors is the name. It's a name used by the AMD, whereas the CUDA processors is used by the NVIDIA. We can say that these are the actual things. Like in the CPU, we have threads which do the actual process. And similarly, the stream and CUDA are the actual heroes which do the computations in the graphics card. What is memory bandwidth? Memory bandwidth is something very important. It depends on the three parameters, that is memory clock speed, memory bus width, and the transfer per clock. Memory clock speed is that the number of process or the number of things it can handle per unit time. So the memory clock speed is measured in megahertz, whereas the memory bus width, you can think that if you have 4-lane road, more number of vehicles can go at once than compared to the 2-lane road. Similarly, if we have higher bus width, we can access more amount of data fast. So that is, for example, 256 bit or 128 bit. Even in the softwares, you will get 64 bit and 32 bit. So, okay, now let's come to the actual thing, that is integrated graphics and dedicated graphics. I know you are very curious about this. So what is integrated graphics? It is integrated in the CPU itself. It does not have its separate hardware. It is integrated in the motherboard itself, and we cannot change it. What we have received is received. We cannot change it, and it does not have its separate memory. It shares the memory with the CPU. Whereas in the dedicated thing, it has separate hardware, separate memory, and it does not interfere with the operations of the CPU. And the best thing is, if we don't like our dedicated graphics, we can change it or we can increase it. Here is one screenshot of my laptop that I have 2 GB dedicated and 8 GB integrated. The thing is, if the work we are doing is not so much heavy, like we are not building a 3D model, or we are not rendering a video, we are not creating some content, then the dedicated graphics will not work. It will only be active when it cannot be handled by integrated graphics. That's the main thing. So actually what it does is, now every laptop comes with both. Even if you don't want it, it will come. So the overall graphics I have is 10 GB. So the graphic names are like these: Radeon RX 6800 XT, GeForce RTX 3070. Now we will 47 degree. Oh, the 47 degree is the temperature of my graphics card. As it is not working, it is actually not. It is GPU. So the RTX, GTX, and what these numbers mean. What does the letter TI mean? Let us explore these meanings. Okay, the RTX stands for the Ray Tracing Texel Extreme, whereas the GTX stands for the Giga Texel Shader Extreme. RTX, it is a higher level, means if you are really into the machine learning, not in the college level, if you are in the graduation, post-graduation level in the machine learning, you need RTX graphics. It uses the it is very helpful in 3D modeling, whereas for normal stuff, the GTX is enough for us now. There are some numbers like this 2080, 1070, 3070. Similarly, the first two number denotes that mm, denotes that the generation, whereas the last two number denotes the performance index. The more the last two numbers are, the more the performance is. And this TI denotes like it is something extension of the similar graphics card. If there is TI, okay, if there is TI, it will do something better than the non-TI version. It is just somewhat increasing. And okay, so this ends with the graphics card. I could see many questions like Intel Iris better than AMD. The thing is, if you go with AMD integrated, you have to come with AMD CPU also. So first decide which processor do you want. And in comparison, I would say that AMD always stands better in terms of the integrated GPU. If you are focusing on the integrated GPU, always prefer AMD over Intel. So the next section will be taken by my friend. I will be in the chats for you. Thank you.
Okay. So I hope my screen is visible now. Fine. So let's get into the power and battery section of the laptop. So before we go in, let's see what your laptop battery is actually, and let's understand something about your laptop battery. Your laptop battery popularly will be lithium-ion batteries. So we are going to limit our discussion to only lithium-ion batteries for this session. Although there are few terminologies and similar working will be present for other batteries as well. But I don't think you will have to worry about it because yours is mostly lithium-ion battery only. Okay, so let's see a few terminologies. Now, what is calendar life? Calendar life is the total time the battery can be stored. One sec, sorry. So total time the battery can be stored in idle or with minimal usage, such that its capacity remains above 80%. So in general, your laptop will have a calendar life about 5 to 10 years, and there are few factors affecting your calendar life, like the temperature is the one factor which you definitely might know. If you use higher temperatures, then your calendar life will reduce. Another factor is the state of charge. So state of charge is, by state of charge, I mean the charge at which you are leaving your laptop battery idle at. So we will get into this later. Let's just move on with the next few terminologies. What is a charge cycle? So a charge cycle is nothing but a full discharge and a charge going from 100 to 0 and back to 100. So one charge cycle basically will be total amount of discharge is 100% and total amount of charge is 100%. So this does not have to be in one single go. I will explain to you what I mean by this in the next slide. Let's move on to what is a cycle life. So a cycle life is basically the number of charge cycles before your laptop goes below 80%. So cycle life is a bit different from your calendar life. The factors which will affect your cycle life, apart from high temperatures, obviously, will be uh, basically, let's say you charge your laptop between 100% and 0. So you let your laptop charge up to 100%, and then you let your laptop discharge completely to 0%. Like this, you use your laptop daily. Then if you do this, your cycle life will definitely reduce. That is why it is advised to keep your cycle life, to keep your charge and discharge limit between around 20 to 80%. So don't let your laptop discharge below 20% and don't let your laptop charge beyond 80%. This will increase your cycle life. Typically, laptop batteries can last over 500 charge cycles, and cycle life of a battery will be generally between 300 to 400, will be depending upon your usage and the type of laptop you use. As I've said before, charge cycle does not have to be a single contiguous 0 to 100 and then 100 to 0. It can be in different steps. So let's say you discharge your laptop by 75% and then charge it again by 75%. Then later you discharge it by 25% and then charge it again by 25%. So this total amount of discharge which is occurring here is 100%, and total amount of charge which is occurring is 100%. So this is one charge cycle. Okay. Let's move on to the next section, which is the battery packs. You may have, if some people who have fiddled with your laptop, you may have seen that inside where the laptop battery is supposed to be there is this cylindrical, not cylindrical, there is this cuboid shape box which is present. So what is this? This is nothing but a smart battery pack. This smart battery pack contains the lithium-ion battery along with some auxiliary electronics. So this auxiliary electronics has some particular function. So what this does is it stores the battery parameters. So it will monitor your laptop battery, all the discharging and charging cycles which are occurring. It will monitor that and send that data back to your motherboard and your charger electronics. And it will also is used for calculating the battery health. Sorry, the battery level. It is used for calculating what is the battery level of your laptop battery. Next, I would say that this electronics, which is present in your smart battery pack, it is not responsible for charging your laptop battery. In fact, this charging is done by the electronics which is present inside your motherboard. Okay, so in case, let's say you have used your laptop over a period of time and now you want to see how it is running, how it has performed during this period, and you want to see a few specifications of your laptop battery, a few attributes. So let's see how we can do that. In MacBook, you can look into your system report where you can see this battery information, like the cycle count, full charge capacity, your state of charge, all this you can see in your MacBook. And when it comes to Windows, you can create a battery report by using this command. So when you type in this command in your command prompt, power cfg/battery report, then you will be given a HTML file. If you put this HTML file into your browser, then I will show you what exactly happens. Let me just present my full screen and show you. Okay, so as you can see in my Windows laptop, I have generated this battery report. Here I can get all the specifications regarding my laptop model as well as my battery. So as you can see, my cycle count is 378. My design capacity is the capacity at which my laptop was designed to run. My full charge capacity being the laptop, what is the capacity of my laptop right now. As you can see here, sometimes it will be more than your design capacity due to some tolerance. That you don't have to worry about. And here you can see the overtime usage. You can find the laptop, how it has been running over these past few days with the timestamps over here. As you can see, suspended would mean I have stopped my laptop at that time. Active would mean my laptop was running. And yes, I have seen a question in the chat box saying that your laptop will be running on AC power. Yes, that is true. Once it reaches 100%, it will run on AC power. As you can see here, that at this moment, when you can see when my laptop was running on my battery and when my laptop was running on AC power. Similarly, you can see many other details about your laptop battery. If you are interested, you can look into that. Let me just continue. Okay. Next. So let's see, what do you mean by power plan? So power plan is essentially a setting which you can keep on your laptop, which is used based on your usage. So you can keep a power plan which will support higher performance if you need higher performing laptop, or you can keep your power plan to be in a very low low power consuming state where you can it will be beneficial for your laptop battery. You can also do a few settings like choosing when your laptop sleeps, all that in your power plan. So in Windows, you can set your power plan in the power option, and for Mac, you can set it in the energy saver. As I said, you can choose when you make a custom power plan. Let's say you can even see when you want your laptop to go to sleep and when you want your display to go to sleep. All these settings can be changed in this options. Also, you can choose what you're pressing your power button does and what closing your lid does. So what are the options you can choose for powering off your laptop? Let's just see that. You must be very familiar with sleep and shutdown. Sleep essentially whatever programs which are present on your laptop state, it is present will be shifted to your memory, and all the other electronics will be turned off. So this is when you are stepping away from your laptop for, let's say, a coffee break, like half an hour to 1 hour. You can put it your laptop and sleep, and when you turn it on, you don't have to turn on your laptop from the beginning. It does not have to boot. Which is you may have seen before if you have used sleep, and so that is one benefit of sleep. And next we go to hibernate. Hibernate option, basically what this does is whatever laptop state and memory, all the processes which are running, all of it will be dumped into your secondary memory. So your drives will now contain the whole laptop memory and laptop current state. So everything else will be shut down. So in terms of power usage, it is the same as shutdown, because now everything is just stored into your secondary memory. And but the disadvantage of hibernate is that you have to boot your system again when you turn it on. So it will take the same amount of time as turning on your laptop from the beginning. So hibernate can be used when you're, let's say, you want to uh, use an application and the next day you want to go to sleep, but you don't want to turn on your laptop from the beginning again. So you can just put it in hibernate mode, and then you can overnight you can leave it like that, and then the next day you can open it from the same previous state. So shutdown is something which you must be very familiar with. shutdown will basically turn off all your programs and it will close your laptop. And as one person said, one person asked before in the chat box, I would advise you to shut down your laptop once in a while, especially if you are using hibernate mode, because there are programs, some programs which will be running daily when you're hibernating your laptop will like start to bug out when you if you hibernate your laptop too many times. So I would say shut down your laptop once in a while. Hybrid mode is something which is not used for laptops. It is mainly used for desktop PCs, even though it is present in your laptop. Hybrid is basically a mixture of sleep and hibernate. It is something which you don't need to go into right now. You don't have to worry about hybrid mode. So now let us move into some frequently asked questions about your laptop battery. Okay, so I want to ask you this. Is it okay to store my fully charged laptop for extended period of time? So you can answer in the chat box what you think about this. Let me just open the chat box. So I request you to answer this question. Is it okay to store fully charged laptop for extended period of time? No, yeah, definitely. The answer is no. But why is it no? I will explain to you. So there was a research conducted on lithium ion batteries. When you store your laptop battery at 25 degrees Celsius for 1 year period, fully charged, the total battery capacity after this 1 year had reduced by 20%. Whereas when you store your laptop battery at 40% charge in the same conditions for the same amount of time, it will reduce only by 4%. So I would advise you to keep your laptop battery in a range between 40 to 50% if you're storing for extended period of time, and don't let it drop, don't let it completely discharge. Once in a while, keep looking at it. Okay, so now what I will, let's go to the second question. Let's say I keep my laptop plugged into AC all the time.
Can you share your PPT? Your screen is not like you're sharing your entire screen.
Okay, just 1 second. Sorry for the issue. Okay. So let's see if, the second question. Let's say I keep my laptop plugged into the AC all the time. Will it overcharge my battery and ruin it? Well, this was a question I think was asked that I want to like, will it overcharge? Definitely. I hope you know the answer by now. You can answer this in the chat box, by the way. Whether is it okay to keep your laptop plugged into AC all the time, or will it overcharge it? No. It is okay. Yeah, so basically it is okay to keep your laptop charged even after it is 100%, because as I said, the smart battery packs, they will cut off the power supply into your laptop battery, and your laptop will basically run on AC power once it has reached 100%. But there is a disadvantage to this. As I have explained earlier, that your laptop stored at 100% charge is for extended period of time is bad, because so similarly, like you should not be leaving your laptop at 100% charge and plug into AC, not worry about battery, because what happens is when you plug into AC and then you use your laptop at 100%, it is the same as running your battery, your laptop on AC power and leaving your battery idle at 100% charge. So as I've told you before, that leaving your laptop battery at 100% charge idle for a long time will definitely reduce its battery capacity even more. So there is a way to tackle this issue. I will get into this issue, the solution later on, but let's go into the next question. Should I drain my laptop battery to 0% and recharge it to 100% once in a while? What do you think about this? Like, answer this in the chat box. Should I do this? Like, let it drain to 0% and let it charge up to 100%? I think I have answered this already, so you may be knowing this. Yeah, so the answer is definitely not. You should not be doing this because it will strain your laptop battery a lot. And as I've said, it will reduce your cycle life. Especially if you have an old laptop, definitely don't do this. Okay, so as I explained before, let's say you want to use your laptop and AC power and don't want to worry about your laptop battery. So how can you do this? You can set a maximum charge limit. So basically what this does is you can limit your laptop battery to charge only up to a certain extent. After this limit is reached, your laptop battery will stop charging. So let's say you keep a charge limit of 80%, then your laptop will only charge up to 80% and then stop charging. So after that, you can use your laptop in AC power. So this can be used if you if you use your laptop like a desktop or a PC, keeping it for charge for a long time and using it. So this can be done with the help of an app or in the BIOS. So this app which is provided will be specific to the manufacturer. You can check in, you can look into few of the, okay, excuse me, sorry. Few of the apps have been mentioned here specific to few laptop manufacturers. Remaining manufacturers can look into their websites if you want to know more about this. Okay, so as I've explained about your laptop battery, I would, if you guys want to know more about your phone battery as well, then we have this amazing post by our Electronics Club as a Know About It series. If you would like, you can scan this barcode and you can read about your phone battery as well and what to do with your phone charging. So I will wait here for a few moments for you to scan this if you are interested. There is a link which is also posted in the chat box. So if you would like, you can go into that. So next, let's move on to heatsink. Now you may be saying, okay. So let's move on to heatsink, which is basically we're going to see about the cooling system of your laptop and how your laptop is draining your energy, how your laptop will start dissipating your heat. So let's see what the cooling system of your laptop is. Popularly, your laptop will use a heat pipe technology, where the heat pipe is basically a vacuum sealed metal tube, which is usually copper. It is used to, it contains a fluid which is inside the laptop, inside the copper tubes. So how does this help in dissipating heat? So let's say your laptop starts overheating, then what happens is the heat gets transferred into this fluid which is present in the copper tube, and this fluid is converted into a vapor form. So once this fluid is, this vapor goes into the other end of the copper tube, where it is cooled down with the help of a condenser or cooling fans, and it turns back into its liquid form and goes back to its original place. So this cycle repeats. In this way, you can dissipate heat from your laptop. So this is the working of heat pipe. Another technology which is used popularly is the vapor chamber technology. This will provide much more intensity of heat dissipation. Basically, for the same amount of area, it will dissipate more amount of heat. But this technology is not really used in, not popularly used in your laptops because this is a very high-end technology and expensive. So we will not be discussing much about this. Okay, so you may be asking, Bhaiya, now what is the actual temperature? My laptop is overheating. What do I do? All this. Then I would say break an egg, cook an omelette on your laptop. Okay, I'm just joking. Okay, don't actually do that. So let's just see about overheating of your laptop. So when we are talking about your laptop temperature, we would mainly specify T-junction temperature. So T-junction temperature is the temperature at which your transistor functionality starts to break down. So any laptop parts, you may be knowing that they will consist of transistors. So even your processors, your hard drives, your graphics card, everything will be consisting of transistors. So the basically the T-junction, after your laptop reaches the T-junction temperature, it automatically turns off so that it can save your laptop. So a few devices like the Intel i7 fourth generation, they have set their limit to 105 degrees as their maximum limit, and AMD R9 290X, they have set maximum to be 95 degrees. Now you may be asking, what about the other processors? What about other graphics card and other models? Let me just say that this maximum temperature which is being specified, you don't have to blindly believe this. You don't have to take this too seriously, because actually the temperature calculation of your laptop is a bit more complex, because your laptop does not contain any moving parts. So if you see a car engine, you can see that it contains lubricating fluid and temperature gauge, which can easily monitor how much temperature your engine is at, and it will keep it that temperature. But in case of a laptop, since there are no moving parts, you cannot really specify what temperature range you should keep it at. So even if you go into the websites, you will see a particular temperature range, but I would suggest forget about that all. Just keep your laptop below 90 degrees Celsius. Keep a maximum limit of this much. Even if it is going close to 90 degrees, I would suggest you to take some precautions. And one more thing is, if you go into the websites, they will not specify a lower limit for your laptop temperature. So I would say basically don't just keep your laptop in a freezer and forget about it. Don't do this. Because you may be thinking that there is no lower limit, I can keep it anywhere. It is not like that. I would suggest keep your laptop above or close to the ambient temperature, so that there won't be formation of any tiny droplets inside your laptop motherboard, which will spoil the circuitry. Okay, so you may be thinking about how to monitor your laptop's temperature. So this can be done with the help of BIOS, the UEFI interface, or this can be done with third-party software. So in the BIOS, the benefit of using BIOS is that you don't have to download any other third-party software for this. So you can be free from viruses or any threats. But it is much slower, because you have to turn off your device and turn it on twice. So if you want ease of use and much more efficient way, you can choose third-party software. Like some of the software which have been mentioned here, you can use this, but beware not to download any malware. That is the end of the heatsink and your laptop battery. Let's move on to the next session.
So let's start with the most colorful topic of the workshop, that is display. So the first thing I will tell you is about display illumination. So the modern flat panel monitors and televisions require external light source to be visible. They don't produce light to illuminate the content on screen. So modern day displays tackle it through two methods. First is backlights, and other is self-illuminating screens. So let me first introduce you to the backlight. So backlights illuminate the laptop screens from the side or back of the display panels. Almost all laptops have LCD displays only, so they use backlights, and they use LEDs or Ccfls for backlighting. So I just want to ask you, what is the full form of Ccfl? I know you guys know about LEDs, so I want you to ask, what is the full form of Ccfls? Just to give your answer in the chat box. Any guesses what is the full form of Ccfls? I can't see any. Just a minute. Oh, there is some lag, so I think I should leave this. So I will tell you what is the full form. The full form of Ccfls is cold cathode fluorescent lamps. So if somebody has told this, then you are right. So let's move on. So you know more than enough that LEDs. So I'm not going in the electron and hole shit like in +2 now. I will tell you about CCFLs a bit. That CCFLs use CCFL bulbs embedded behind the LCDs. So they have very too much of weight and provides too much weight of hardware to carry. So not many people know about it because it has a lot of disadvantages. So totally totally dominate over CCFLs. That is why you don't know much about CCFLs. And because CCFLs has too much power consumption and weight, these are the biggest drawbacks an electronics item can have. So and these both are present in CCFLs, so they are totally discarded from the market, almost totally discarded. So, but still LEDs had only one disadvantage yet. That is also tackled now. I will tell you what it is. So since LEDs themselves are blue, the backlight still emits a lot more blue light than red and green light. You can see here that in the older screens, there are colors becomes little lopsided because of this. You can see that spectral measurement of these kind of LCD screens have a lot of intensity in the blue region. So how the researchers tackle it out? The first is the use of Rg phosphors. So as the name suggests, screen has red and green phosphorus that is combined with, previously I mentioned what are blue LEDs, they are combined with them and they use it only. Then the spectral region becomes almost the same. Okay, you can say the height of the peak that I show above becomes less for the blue region. So next solution is higher end RGB lights. Here instead of using just blue LEDs, they use all three color LEDs to emit more pure red, green and blue energy, making for more accurate colors without the drawbacks of LEDs. So clearly RG phosphors and higher end RGB LEDs totally helped in getting over the disadvantage of LEDs and totally dethroned CCFL. So we use LEDs only for LCD screens. But Samsung has recently introduced a new type of backlights. It is also a type of LED. So can you guys, it is QLEDs. Can you tell me the full form of the QLEDs in the chat box? It is based on the branch of physics that blows hell out of everyone's mind. Just hint. Yeah, yes, quantum LEDs. Very good. So yeah, the full form of QLEDs is quantum LEDs. QLED displays works by placing a layer or film of quantum dots in front of a regular LCD backlight panels. So instead of using LEDs, we use QLEDs. And I won't recommend you to buy it as it is still in much of a research phase. So any problem rectification is difficult now. So LEDs still are in the market in most of the time. So here is the end of the backlighting thing. Now I will tell you about self-illuminating screens. Self-illuminating, as the name suggests, these are the screens that give their own light for the content to show brighter. So can anybody tell which display it is? What is the example of the self-illuminating screen? You might have heard about it in TV stores much. E-ink, okay. P-LED. Yeah, the most significant one I'm going to tell from all these. Okay, one of you have got the right answer. Almost all the right answers. So all are the right answers. So I will tell you about only one of these that are mostly used in laptops, because the workshop is about your laptops. So it is OLED displays. The full form, again, what is the full form of OLED displays? Just tell what the full form of full form for O. Yeah, okay. Organic. Yes, you got it right. So I will give you a brief intro about this, that an OLED pixel is self-illuminating, and considering a laptop, it is a way too expensive. So you should have a good bank balance to spend much of a money on these things. The OLED displays use the organic properties and that modulate the light and use the luminescence of organic materials. So I will not go into that deep. So I will leave it here. So since the illumination part is over, I will go over the resolution part. So laptop screens, has thousands of pixels represented by number of pixels horizontally and vertically, like 1920 into 1080, blah, blah, blah. We know that you know about all this, so I will not talk about all these shit. I will go on to tell you some advice over this thing. We are here to advise you something about 4K. So what happens whenever you hear about 4K, there is slight shiver in us that by thinking about the picture quality of 4K. So, but still I will say again, considering a laptop, obviously you cannot observe much difference in 4K and Full HD displays unless you have a very wide screen. Like for example, you cannot have a 32-inch laptop, right? And it is useless for text work too. And the next thing is battery life. Since it has 4 times the pixels than Full HD, there will be more battery usage due to more power, due to more processing by color profiles. I will talk about more about color profiles. So the color profiles will do 4 times the work they do in Full HD. So battery life sucks. So this is a very big disadvantage of a 4K in laptops. So the people who still have a bug inside them, who is asking them to buy a 4K laptops, there are 2 recommendations. If you do photography or video editing, then you can try buying a 4K laptop because in photography and video editing, you have a lot of work related to zooming the image. So you can buy this. It is totally recommended for you guys. But buy a wide monitor with laptop if you still want to buy a 4K laptop. Buy a wide monitor because you can't set up a PC in hostel room, right? Because you have to shift in every 1 year. So that's all for the resolution part. Now we will go to the topic that is not much, you guys not much aware of it. That is monitor calibration. So it is a very heavy process. So I will give you a disclaimer that before before doing this process, turn on your computer monitor and leave it for 30 minutes or so to warm up before calibration. This is the very big thing. So never do it after just turning on your laptops. So what is monitor calibration? Each screen displays images differently because of their different inner workings. Like the same image will be the same image will have different colors in my laptop, my phone, and my friend laptop because of their inner workings. So monitor calibration adds consistency to the situation and employs a common standard so that any monitor using the same standard will present the image in the same way. This might not have gotten into your head. I will explain you with an example. So first see this image. You might think it looks fine to me, right? But see this. So you might have gotten my point, right? You can totally feel the color difference here. The left, previously you find that the left one is good, but now you can see that it has more warmth, greenish and yellowish in color than the right one. So you might have now got the idea of what is the use of monitor calibration. So now I will tell you how to do this. How to solve this issue is Windows and Mac OS provide built-in tools to change gamma, contrast and color levels of the system display. And few sites also are there for this purpose, and they have more samples than Windows and Mac OS. But I will not recommend this because they rely on users' vision. You can do a itty-bitty corrections only because there is not a much of a clarification in the user's vision. It is like measuring wind speed by taking hands out of the windshield. So I won't recommend this. So the better option is to download a color profile suitable for your monitor. I will explain it in brief. The color profiles helps in mapping color information present in files and UI elements that are stored in numbers. You remember 6-digit numbers, right? These numbers are mapped to the actual colors your screen can display. For example, sRgb that are present by default present in most of the computers. And also few custom profiles are also present for specific display model. So we will send you 2 links in the chat box where you can find the best custom profile for your monitor. I think someone might have sent it in the chats. So after the workshop, go find which custom profile is best for you. This will enhance your monitor's calibration. So, but still again, for people having interest in photography and videography, because this topic is very much for obsession for the people who love this. So the previous ways are not 100% accurate. So what is the best method to get the suitable display for your monitor? The best thing is to buy a hardware calibrator. Place it on your screen and run the software that comes with it. This will tell you exactly what color balances, contrast, color levels, brightness, and all of the things that is best for a monitor. It will save the best custom profile there only, and you can share it too. So this is the best solution for your monitor calibration. So I think so this is the end of the display section of the workshop. Now we will go to the very interesting part of the workshop and is very important part of the hardware. I will not tell you what it is. My friend Etar will explain about it to you. Thank you.
Hello everyone. I hope my screen is visible to you all. So here we begin with how does a computer starts. So the thing that helps us with it is BIOS. So before getting into the BIOS, we should get into what does booting a PC means. Okay. So obviously we are not talking about this boot. So what does basically booting means? So booting is a process of loading an operating system onto your machine. Without it, your operating system would not be loaded and you won't be able to enjoy your computer or use your computer for the purpose you are using it. So what is BIOS? So BIOS basically stands for Basic Input Output System, and it's a very simple small piece of code that is onto your PC. BIOS basically, when you switch on your computer, BIOS, what it does is it just identifies your computer hardware and configures it and tests it. And after that, if all the things are valid, then it loads operating system onto your machine. Okay, now we'll go forward. So today's computer generally comes with UEFI, which stands for Unified Firmware Interface. Basically, previously BIOS was used, but nowadays UEFI used because of its superiority over BIOS. The main thing that UEFI is different from BIOS is that it's the booting speed while using UEFI is much more faster than BIOS. The reason behind is that it stores all the initialization and startup information into .efi file, and that's why it boots up much more faster than BIOS. And one more thing that is different from BIOS is that it can be run onto 32-bit and 64-bit processor, whereas BIOS runs on 16-bit processor. Thus, you can have better UI configuration and graphics. So here is the flowchart that depicts the difference between the BIOS and UEFI. BIOS is just like an old school boot, whereas the UEFI is like the new boot. It helps you to load your operating system much more faster than BIOS. So let's get first to know how we can access BIOS and use it to our profit advantages. So BIOS, there are many ways to open the BIOS window, but I'll just discuss some ways. So basically, in Windows 10, 8 or 10, you can go to the BIOS window by continuously pressing function 2 key or function 10 key. It depends on which laptop you have. So continuously while you are booting your PC, you will be directly to the BIOS window. But for Windows 11, it's better different. For that, you have to just keep press your Shift key and restart your PC. When it restarts, you'll be directed to an window like this. You'll be directed to a window like this, where you have to choose an option. Just go to the troubleshoot option, then to the advanced option. Then here you can see you will be getting an option called UEFI firmware. After you select it, you'll have to restart your PC. When you will restart, you will be directed to a BIOS window. So now what BIOS is capable of? So BIOS is mainly for the function of loading your operating system on your PC. So therefore, it provides you with many operations like boot configuration, storage, power, and security, and much more. So what is boot configuration? So boot configuration basically this thing controls the mode by which your operating system is being loaded, and it also checks the integrity of the firmware and the bootloaders. So let's get on to the boot sequence. So boot sequence, basically there are three main modes by which your operating system gets loaded. It's first is Windows Boot Manager, second is UEFI hard drive, and third is onboard NIC. So when your operating system is being loaded onto your machinery through the internal drive, SSD or HDD, a Windows Boot Manager is responsible for it. In case you are doing it using an external drive, UEFI hard drive will be used for booting up your operating system onto your machinery. And if it's done through PXE or through the network, onboard NIC is being used to do that. For the one who don't understand what NIC is, so NIC is a network interface card which helps your computer or the machinery to communicate on a network. So now let's see what secure boot do. So basically the question is, what if the BIOS is corrupted or it's not good? So the thing for this, we have secure boot. It's just like a security system which checks your integrity of your boot firmware and the bootloaders. If it's found faulty, then your PC, your operating system will not be loaded onto your system. So what if even then you have to boot up your PC using that corrupted, not with a corrupted file, but even then if you want to load your boot your PC, so what is to be done? So it's basically just you can switch off disable the secure boot option into your BIOS, and then you can boot it. So here's a disclaimer about it, that please just don't forget to take down your BitLocker recovery key. If you don't have your BitLocker recovery key, you won't be able to boot up your system. Again, the BIOS provide us with the two modes in the secure boot option. One is the deployed mode and second is the audit mode. So the deployed mode is the one which thoroughly checks the boot firmware and the bootloader integrity. If found faulty, it won't boot your PC. Whereas in audit mode, there is just a signature check of the integrity of the firmware and the bootloaders. The main purpose for setting the secure boot mode into audit mode is that if you have to make any changes to the secure boot key, you use the audit mode. And BIOS or UEFI, basically it's really very smart for itself. Basically, if the BIOS is found corrupted or it's not good, so what it does is during the upgradation, when the firmware or BIOS upgrades itself, it stores a recovery file of its own onto the HDD or the solid state drive. So if it's not during the booting, if the integrity is not matched, it's not good, it automatically recovers to the good BIOS firmware which was previously installed on your PC. Okay, now we come to the storage part. Okay, so many of us have heard about solid state drive and hard HDD. So we know that which is faster, and what about it. But many of us don't understand how does the data is communicated between the machinery and the solid state drive or the non-volatile storage. So here's the answer for it. Basically, this is done using SATA. SATA stands for Serial ATA, whereas ATA is Advanced Technological Advancement. Previously, we were using parallel ATA, but due to the superiority of serial ATA and the compactness of serial ATA, in short SATA, we use, what should I say? Yeah, serial ATA. There are mainly two modes in serial ATA, which is AHCI and RAID mode. So basically, the AHCI mode enables you to use advanced feature on SATA drive, such as hot swapping and native command queuing. Whereas on the RAID mode, RAID mode is used when you have more than one hard drive, or basically you have to set up a backup file. Okay. When you set up the RAID mode on this under the SATA option, HCI features are automatically, you can use HCI features as well with the RAID. It is interesting to note that the RAID mode was introduced before AHCI, but still it's more faster and more, it's more superior than AHCI. The only reason AHCI is being used is that it's more because the RAID is most costlier than AHCI. So now we come to the power section. So basically, you must have watched our video, and that Dhruv was concerned about battery life and battery lifespan. So here's the thing. Basically, the BIOS provides us with many modes through which we can set up the battery options. So we have basically three standard modes through which the battery can charge. One is adaptive charging, second is standard rate charging, and third is express rate charging. So basically, through the name, they are suggestive that adaptive charging, it adapts through the user's usage of the battery and powering of the battery. It charges according to the user. Where the standard rate charging, it charges the battery at standard rate. And if someone wants to charge their battery really fast, then the express charge mode can be used. But here's the thing that there are two types of charging. One is slow charge and is fast charge. So basically, people get confused which is better. Always they think that the fast charging is better than slow charge, but it's not so. And slow charging is always recommended rather than the fast charge, because the slow charge does not is because it does not destroy your battery. Whereas in the fast charge, the battery is heated up really, and this it's not good for your lifespan. And another additional option that is being provided to you via BIOS is that you can customize the starting and the end point of your charging. Means, like, if you want your battery to stop charging after 50%, you can do so, and if you want to start your charging after 50%, you can do it as well. And one more thing that you can do under BIOS is that you can adjust your processor's performance. Okay, so there are also four modes to it. That is optimized, cool, quiet, and ultra performance. The name itself they are suggestive. Optimized means the fan speed, temperature, surface temperature, and the performance of the processor. All three are optimized. Whereas for cool and quiet, the fan speed and the cooling and the temperature of the surface are considered. Therefore, the performance of the processor is unchecked. Basically, you cannot use the processor to its highest power. And if you do have a heat sink computer, and so you can use ultra performance mode. It allows you to unveil the full performance of your processor. And under the ultra performance, you can use your processor to the full extent. So here we comes to one of the basic problem that is related to the slow boot of the PC. So slow boot of the PC can be dealt with the BIOS. So if some of your screens look like this when you boot up your PC, then this is for you. So in this section, basically the BIOS provides you with the three options, that is minimal, thorough, and auto. This three basically defines the checking of your hardware and the integrity of boot firmware. If you set up it into the minimal option, the checking of the firmware and the bootloaders as well as the hardware is minimized. Thus, your PC can boot up really very fast. And thorough, there's a full integrity check of the hardwares and the firmware bootloaders. Therefore, there might be a slight delay for your booting. BIOS also lets you to decide the number of CPU cores to be used. Basically, there are many cores on CPU cores you have. You can just select the number of cores that you want for your PC to be used. BIOS allows you to do that. Okay, so as till now you must have understood that BIOS is really one of the integral part of your computer, and there should be some protection given to it. So yeah, the BIOS can be protected and have restricted access to your operating system. So what is it? So basically, the BIOS provides itself a password to which such that it can have restricted access and it can be protected. BIOS password, which you can call it as administrator password as well. So basically, it's really different from your operating system password. Via operating system password, you access your operating systems and other files on your operating system, whereas BIOS password is used to boot up your firmware, load your access your bootloaders, and for loading your operating system itself onto your machinery, this password is needed. So basically, it's a kind of a total security for your PC. No one can even set up another operating system onto your PC without this password. But here comes another caution that if you forget this password, then there's nothing else you can do but just to clean up your machine completely. So please be careful with it. Okay, this one more option, one more thing that can be built using BIOS is that just like it's something like what is formatting and does it really cleans up your data, as it has been discussed by Akshay that no, it's not. Basically, while formatting, the data is not completely erased. It's just the link, what should I say, an address to the data has been removed. It's severe. Therefore the data still remains on the hard drive or solid state drive, so therefore it can be recovered. But what should I say is like, there is an option provided to you via BIOS. So the option is called data wipe. It's an option in which you can just completely, it's basically what it does, it reconstructs the data in such a way that it cannot be restored. So there are again 4 ways to do it. It depends on the company, it depends on the company. So basically there are 4 ways still: single pass override, triple pass override, 7-pass override, and secure erase. Name are still suggestive. Single pass override, the data is being overwritten single time, and so as with triple pass in the 3 times, and for the 7-pass override, this data has been overwritten 7 times. So such that the data reconstruction is not possible. So you can think for yourself which is best for you: data formatting or data wipe. So I reached the conclusion. There's some general settings you can do via your BIOS. Is that you can adjust the many of the latest PC comes with a backlight, so you can check. You can basically set the timeout settings for your BIOS, whether it's in AC or on a power mode, battery mode. Sorry, and you can also select the option to boot up your PC when your lid is turned on and off. So thank you for your attention.
Okay, guys. With that, we conclude our workshop of the Know Your Laptop series. Thank you for actually staying with us throughout this whole 2-hour session. I know it was very long, and you do have another workshop. Sorry, I think an orientation at 8 o'clock, and I'm sorry for the time clashing. And we hope that you enjoyed this series as much as we enjoyed working on it and teaching you what all we have learned throughout this period of working on this workshop. Be sure to follow us in our social media platforms on Instagram, Facebook, and on YouTube. And be sure to check out our Know About It series, which we post regularly. And I know we have been bragging about Know About It series for a long time, but we are doing this only because we are really proud of how good that content actually is. You will definitely find it useful and interesting, rather, if you follow the series in our social media. Another thing is, finally, I would like to say um, a feedback form will be posted in your chat box. Be sure to fill this feedback form and give us proper feedback and tell us how did you enjoy this session. So please be sure to share this feedback form to your friends who have attended this session, in case they left in between. And thank you for giving your attention to us. Be sure to fill this feedback form over here. The links for the social media will also be posted in the chat box in case you want to follow us. So please do, and we hope you enjoy our content.